Another week of SmackDown Live going into Money in the Bank, and SmackDown Live continues with a run of decent shows week after week, picking up steam and perhaps getting to a state where SmackDown Live, perhaps going into these summer months and into SummerSlam, which is the second biggest show of the year for WWE, can really gather some steam and become a show everybody wants to watch, just like it was in December 2016. SmackDown showing promise. That doesn't mean it was void of the cheesy comedy segments that WWE loves to throw in there and just the absolutely asinine booking. Of course, that was still prevalent and WWE booking is still in effect. But the 2-hour format of the show and this amazing roster that you just cannot go wrong with is being utilized quite well, especially compared to what I was considering would be the case with especially how WWE is booking Monday Night Raw right now on WWE television. SmackDown Live with a decent string of shows, and it's going to be interesting to see coming out of Money in the Bank if this is going to stop or this is going to continue, and maybe SmackDown Live will go into its glory days. Nothing amazing at all, nothing that I would even say is good on SmackDown Live. I wouldn't call these shows good. There's some good segments in it, but I wouldn't consider these shows good. But decent is where we're at, and I think we can get above that and we can continue to progress, and things are definitely showing promise on SmackDown Live, and that was exactly showcased here tonight. Throughout, we saw in multiple segments like Shinsuke Nakamura going one-on-one with Ty Dillinger here tonight on SmackDown Live and just completely drilling in the fact that his matchup with AJ Styles will be last man standing and just perfecting and showing us what's so perfect about the Shinsuke Nakamura heel character. Samoa Joe was one of the primary focuses of SmackDown Live here tonight. And of course, whenever Samoa Joe is on any show featured prevalently, I mean, you're going to see some great stuff. And when Samoa Joe is working with Daniel Bryan, the best babyface, the most over babyface in the entirety of the WWE right now, no goddamn exceptions. I mean, we're going to get some good stuff. And even Big CASS here tonight, for what it's worth, was utilized very well. I was not expecting him to come out. I've kind of been straying away from the news stories on what's the condition of Big CASS. So him coming out here tonight was a little bit of a surprise to me. And he was inserted into the matchup. And you know what? The Daniel Bryan versus Samoa Joe dream match actually turning into a triple threat match was not something that I minded here tonight, and we're also going to discuss why there's that. There was a dance-off here tonight that at first I was cringing at, but actually what it turned into was not the worst thing in the world, because it was the sides of Rusev Day and the Usos, and then Lana and Naomi, of course, representing those sides. So what they can do with that going into the Money in the Bank pay-per-view is very interesting as long as they utilize that well. We saw more build. Actually, something very interesting here that I'd like to point out, which I would say is actually one of the most interesting things that's gone on SmackDown Live, is that WWE has built a little bit of tension and a little bit of a competitive babyface rivalry going into next week's SmackDown Live between Charlotte and Becky Lynch. And I've been drilling for a long time that Charlotte and Becky Lynch, at least a mini program with them, at least them competing and being competitive against each other, is something that WWE should explore. And something that WWE is really doing on SmackDown Live. And this was a trait of what they were doing in 2016 on SmackDown Live as well. The women were being utilized correctly because they were in multiple segments throughout the show, and your division was strengthened by the fact that the women are in multiple different roles, in multiple different capacities, in multiple different feuds. Even if this feud this week isn't taking the front lines, they're still represented in some way. Mandy Rose and Sonya Deville are represented in their storyline where they want the special treatment from Paige. You know what? Paige is going to give them that special treatment, and that's going to tie in to the women's championship. You're going to have Asuka face Mandy Rose. Carmella's going to be on commentary. That's how you get her on the show. Meanwhile, you have Becky Lynch and Charlotte observing what's going on in the SmackDown Women's Championship picture, and they're talking about Money in the Bank, and they're building a nice little competitive rivalry about how they are going to Money in the Bank, and Charlotte thinks she's going to win Money in the Bank, but simultaneously, Becky Lynch thinks she is going to win Money in the Bank. And then, of course, you have whatever the hell is going on. I still am waiting to see what it's going to turn into between Lana and Naomi. So the women's division is looking strong. Everybody, I think so. I think maybe we left out like one or two women here tonight on SmackDown Live, but everybody was represented, and everybody's in a storyline, which strengthens your women's division, because later on, when you want to push a Becky Lynch to the forefront, or a Charlotte to the forefront, where right now they're kind of on the sidelines, you were representing them on SmackDown Live during the Asuka Carmella feud, and thus, when it is time for a Becky Lynch to step up and challenge for the SmackDown Women's Championship, everybody's like, oh yeah, I want to see Becky Lynch challenge for the title. She has earned it because she's facing Charlotte next week. Let's say Becky Lynch faces Charlotte next week, beats Charlotte next week. That is right there. Becky Lynch beat Charlotte. Wouldn't that put her in contention for the SmackDown Women's Championship after Money in the Bank? That's an idea. That is an idea. So after Money in the Bank, let's say Asuka wins the SmackDown Women's Championship. You can go straight into a feud between Becky Lynch and Asuka. That sounds great. That sounds great. And it makes sense because Becky Lynch, while she was on the sidelines, she was competing against the likes of Charlotte and beating the likes of Charlotte. So do you see where I'm coming here, where that benefits your entire division? Nobody is kept to the sidelines. Even though they might not be on TV every week, the audience is still being reminded of their presence. And that's something that tonight's SmackDown did very well. Did very, very well, and I enjoyed the hell out of that aspect of tonight's show. There's no doubt about that. So, I went on a little side rant about that as well, but those were some of the things I enjoyed on SmackDown Live, and those were some of the key talking points on tonight's show as well. We continued with the build towards Money in the Bank. Yes, I will admit, some of it is very, very basic, and this is where the typical WWE, just doing things by the numbers, just absolutely lazy booking comes in, but it's being done well on SmackDown Live because the roster that you have, you can't go wrong. You really cannot go wrong with the roster that you're utilizing right now on SmackDown Live. And yeah, you're kind of stretching out here in order to have everybody included on the show, and you're kind of stretching out to make sure the members of the Money in the Bank ladder match are in matches against each other, whether it be Big E and The Miz in some capacity involved with each other. And that's actually another great example about how the tag team division is being strengthened, because you have the New Day and you have the Bar, even though they might not be fighting for the tag team championships right now. And the main storyline for the tag titles is the Bludgeons and the team of Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson. They're still being represented. And they were in a great six-man tag here tonight as well, which we will talk about. So, that's just where I'm coming from. And those are some of the things that SmackDown Live did right, and some of the complaints that you might have about how, they're just basically throwing all the Money in the Bank ladder match contenders in the ring with each other, even though it might not make the most storyline sense. And that's something they're doing on Monday Night Raw. But where SmackDown Live has the advantage and where it comes across as fresher and better is because of the fact that, for one, these guys aren't being put in the same matches against each other each and every single week. It's not rinse and repeat. You're going to see The Miz versus Big E 5 weeks in a goddamn row like we're seeing on SmackDown Live, or on Monday Night Raw, I should say, just to fill television time. That's one advantage. And on top of that, the roster you're working with is just significantly better than anything that you have on Monday Night Raw. But then again, that is not to say that Monday Night Raw can't take the roster that they have and operate with that, because they have some great names under that roster, and they're are multiple names that are miscast. When you have guys like Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, Elias, Braun Strowman, Roman Reigns, Bobby Roode, Drew McIntyre, Dolph Ziggler, Apollo Crews on that roster, and you mean to tell me we're getting the caliber of show that we got last night? Not to mention the women's division that you have on that show. The gauntlet matchup was just absolutely thrown to the wayside. It's just everything about that show. But this isn't your Monday Night Raw review. This is your SmackDown Live review. And I'm going on a side rant that doesn't really need to be addressed right here on your SmackDown Live review, because this is your SmackDown Live review for the date of Tuesday, May 29th, 2018. And of course, ladies and gentlemen, you're watching the Ringside Wrestling YouTube channel here tonight. This is Joel Perez. And of course, before we get into talking about everything in a more organized manner, segment by segment, match by match, I just want to tell all of you guys to make sure to go subscribe to the Ringside Wrestling YouTube channel, because quite frankly, if you have not subscribed yet, I do not know what you are waiting for. Make sure to smash that subscribe button right there, and of course make sure to click on that notification bell. You'll get those notifications straight to your mobile device, so make sure to do those great things. It significantly helps out the channel as well, so make sure to go check out all the other content. So much content each and every single week on the Ringside Wrestling YouTube channel. A bunch of videos for all of you to go check out, detailing WWE over the past several months and weeks and all these days. Of course, you can go check out Behind the Mic episode number 64, which is up on the Ringside Wrestling YouTube channel, uploaded last weekend on Saturday to be specific. It, of course, was detailing the fact that WWE making all this money and getting this $1 billion deal for SmackDown Live with the Fox Network, and the fact that the Monday Night Raw television deal with USA is being multiplied by 3. Even though they're making all this money, that doesn't necessarily mean that that's good for the TV product and that that's good for the fans. And that's the main story that we're talking about on Behind the Mic. Of course, Behind the Mic is the weekly episodic news show where we talk all the WWE news for the week, or all the biggest news, I should say. Don't quite frankly have time to be making 2 parts of Behind the Mic or 3 parts detailing all the news, but of course, make sure to go check that out. We talk about some big and interesting and necessary to talk about news stories on Behind the Mic episode number 64, so make sure to go check that out. Monday Night Raw review was uploaded last night. If you missed that, didn't get it in your subscription box for some odd reason on YouTube, make sure to go check that out. Of course, it is up on the channel right now. Monday Night Raw review, we're talking about the epitome of garbage that was Monday Night Raw last night, with the main thing on that show being the hand squeeze of doom. What am I talking about? If you didn't watch Monday Night Raw, or if you do know what I'm talking about, but you want to see why I'm talking about it in this manner, or you just love the content that you hear each and every single week on the Ringside Wrestling YouTube channel, make sure to go check out your Monday Night Raw review for last night, up right now. Great review right there. Had a lot of fun making that, so make sure to go check that out, as well as your Monday Night Raw and SmackDown Live reviews for last week if you missed those. And of course, make sure to like this video if you enjoy what you're hearing here. Dislike if you don't. I just like to hear the feedback. And speaking of feedback, ladies and gentlemen, make sure to comment down in the enlightenment box down below. Leave all your enlightenments down there, because of course, ladies and gentlemen, I love the feedback. And you're going to tell me things like, what did you think of SmackDown Live here tonight? Did you think it was a good show? What do you think of the build towards Money in the Bank? Who do you think is going to win the Money in the Bank ladder match? There's 2 this year, men's and women's. Who's going to win the men's? Who's going to win the women? Are they going to be from Raw? Are they going to be from SmackDown? I feel like I'm exploding out of the TV screen right now. What the hell is going on? Make sure to comment down in the comment section down below, because for now we're going to slow it down a little bit and we're going to go straight into your in-depth analysis of SmackDown Live. And SmackDown Live started off on a very good note here tonight, because it started off not just with the Samoan submission machine, but somebody who I'd like to call the current master of the promo right now on WWE television. Samoa Joe is at the top of his game right now at every juncture, at everything he does, and he was interrupted by not just Bryan, but of course, Big CASS here tonight. So here was the segment. Of course, like always, I'm going to play it for you guys right now on your SmackDown Live review.
It is said in biblical text that the ladder represents the connection of the earth to the heavens. It is said that when Jacob looked upon his ladder, angels descended from above, smiling and offering salvation. But my version is very, very different. There is no salvation. There are no smiling angels, although after Money in the Bank, I'll be smiling just like I am right now. Because I will have secured my championship opportunity. I will have ascended up, taken down the Money in the Bank briefcase, and after which I unleash a campaign of anxiety and fear on SmackDown Live and its champion that will shake this place to its very core. And tonight,
What a beast.
I prove to your beloved Daniel Bryan that there are things far worse than forced retirement.
That is a great line. And he ggets personal about it.
If your eco-friendly, tree-hugging sensibilities will allow it, I want you to jump on a cell phone. I want you to call your wife Bree, and I want you to have her tell your sweet, sweet daughter a story. I want her to tell your daughter that Daddy will be home from Money in the Bank, but he won't be the same man.
Oh no.
Hold on.
So here comes out Daniel Bryan.
There are just certain lines that you do not cross. And I have a vision of my own, Joe, and it goes like this. You mention my wife or my daughter one more time, and I will break your leg.
Oh shit. So it was about to go down.
We can fight right now.
It's about to go down. Samoa Joe positions a ladder in the corner.
The fact of the matter
But out comes CASS.
is this. That should be my Money in the Bank opportunity, not yours, Daniel Bryan. This second chance crap has got to stop. I spoke to SmackDown Live General Manager Paige, and this match, Daniel Bryan versus Samoa Joe, will not happen. What will happen is Samoa Joe will take on yours truly, Big CASS, for the final spot in the Money in the Bank ladder match. When I am cleared. Good question. When will I be cleared?
And this was a pretty cool line.
I already am cleared.
So he hits Joe with the crutch. Bryan ducks it. Bryan starts to attack Big CASS, but like I mentioned earlier, Samoa Joe propped the ladder that was in the middle of the ring, and like a beast to start off SmackDown Live, Samoa Joe actually climbed up the ladder and he retrieved the men's Money in the Bank briefcase, and as he was cutting his promo, he has it in his hand, and it's a beautiful visual, of course, but that is besides the point, because the ladder is in the corner and Big CASS throws Daniel Bryan into the ladder, and he proceeds to pick up the men's Money in the Bank briefcase, hits Samoa Joe with it, and Big CASS does stand tall over these two men to, of course, move on to SmackDown Live, and that left things in ambiguity because, of course, Big CASS is now cleared. It was originally supposed to be his opportunity to qualify for Money in the Bank. Well, Daniel Bryan did earn his second chance last week when he beat the United States champion Jeff Hardy. And if you look at what's gone down with Samoa Joe was also supposed to get his opportunity. He never got one. So all three men are in a position where they deserve to qualify for Money in the Bank. But what's going to go down here tonight? It was supposed to be Daniel Bryan versus Samoa Joe, and Big Cass threw a wrench into those plans. So what did go down is that Paige, back from the break, we see what Big Cass just did. We see a replay of that, and Paige is backstage with a staffer telling him to keep her informed of any issues. Paige runs into Sonya Deville and Mandy Rose, and they wonder if the pressure is why she's making so many mistakes as of late, like giving title shots to the wrong people. They make the case for why Asuka shouldn't get the SmackDown Women's title shot, because apparently she lost to Charlotte at WrestleMania, and she lost her first match on SmackDown Live, which of course was that tag team match against the Iconics. But she says that, or they say, Paige says that she's going to make Asuka versus Mandy Rose, so Mandy Rose can tell Asuka that to her face. So that was a matchup later in the night on SmackDown Live. We also saw Paige be confronted by Renee Young here tonight on SmackDown Live. And Paige, she asks if Cass was telling the truth about, or she's asked if Cass was telling the truth about tonight's main event being Cass versus Joe instead of Bryan versus Joe. Paige didn't know Joe was going to hijack the show and that Cass was going to speak for her, because no one speaks for her. Paige says Cass has been cleared, but Bryan did beat Jeff Hardy last week to earn tonight's opportunity. She makes Bryan versus Joe versus Cass, which was pretty predictable, in a triple threat main event here tonight. So I was actually not against this decision, because of course, as much as everybody wants to see the dream match between Daniel Bryan and Samoa Joe, you know you don't want to see a matchup of that magnitude, a matchup like this given away on SmackDown Live. And I actually see WWE making Daniel Bryan versus Samoa Joe something on the itinerary for next week's main event of SmackDown Live, since it didn't happen this week. But the way I want to see this matchup is with weeks of build going into a pay-per-view, with these guys really having a blood feud against each other, with this being marketed as a dream matchup. That's how I want to see this matchup go down. I don't want to see this with no build, or 1 week of build and a random matchup on some random edition of SmackDown Live. Yeah, it has stakes around it, but I'd rather see these two guys in a blood feud over a championship, something of that matter. This is a dream, not just a dream match, but a dream feud. And that's something that WWE has failed to understand with a lot of these dream matches. A lot of these dream matches, we don't want to see just the match. We want to see the feud. We want to see the story built up behind this. We want to see why this matchup is happening. And I mean, WWE has failed on that. But it seems like, at least for now, WWE wants to preserve the feud and the matchup that Samoa Joe versus Daniel Bryan would be. And I absolutely love that fact. Hopefully it remains that way and they don't just give it away next week on SmackDown Live. After the events of tonight, I totally see it being Money in the Bank, Big Cass versus Daniel Bryan, but we will talk about that later on in the show. But that matchup was the main event here tonight. Triple threat matchup between Big Cass, Samoa Joe, and Daniel Bryan. But from here we moved on to Shinsuke Nakamura versus Ty Dillinger. Who the hell is that? The Perfect 10? What the hell is that? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. What the hell? Who the hell's that guy? Well, WWE has finally decided to book Ty Dillinger on SmackDown Live. And let me tell you, he was against Shinsuke Nakamura here tonight, and he put on a good showing. Every time Ty Dillinger comes out here, you understand why WWE doesn't want to book this guy on the shows. The report that came out was saying that this guy was getting too over, and they had no plans to push him, so the idea was to suppress the 10 chance by keeping this guy off of television completely. And that is absolutely ridiculous, because here tonight, even after nobody knowing who this guy is, because he's been off of television for so long, he got the crowd behind him somewhat. And it's one because Shinsuke Nakamura is such a great heel, but it's because of the fact that he has such a great gimmick and he's such a magnetic babyface as well. And the fact that WWE doesn't want to utilize a talent of this magnitude and at least put him in a situation for the United States Championship. I mean, it's so flexible. He's so flexible in every single situation. I mean, you put him in a matchup against Jeff Hardy, or a feud between Jeff Hardy and Ty Dillinger for the United States Championship, and I'm telling you, Ty Dillinger will deliver. There was a great moment in this matchup where Shinsuke Nakamura, of course, because it is a last man standing matchup, he would execute multiple moves on Dillinger, and he would start counting 1, 2, 3, and of course his Japanese accent. And Corey Graves made a hilarious comment when Nakamura was counting one time, and he was like, it sounds Japanese. That was absolutely hilarious. But Shinsuke Nakamura was counting, and Ty Dillinger got on his feet before the count of 10. It was 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, and Ty Dillinger got on his feet, and against the ropes, what does he do? 10! That was absolutely fantastic right there by Ty Dillinger, because he is the perfect 10. And it's just such a great gimmick, and it fits into so many situations, and it can fit into so many jokes, and it's just a great gimmick. He got a number over. And you mean to tell me that a guy with that amount of talent is somebody who you're going to keep off of television unless you want to further a feud between Shinsuke Nakamura versus AJ Styles and just implement last man standing and get Nakamura some heel heat? And of course, Nakamura was victorious here tonight in this matchup, but the main thing I saw here, besides this being a great way to get Nakamura some heat, and besides this furthering the feud of Styles and Nakamura and furthering the stipulation, which is something that I love that WWE did here, besides doing all that stuff, the main thing that stuck out here is, why isn't Ty Dillinger being used? Because you know Ty Dillinger came out here tonight and he was saying, this is my opportunity, I'm going to impress. And what did he come out here and do? He took his opportunity and he came out here and impressed. And for some reason, I feel like WWE is just going to send him right back to where he was. And it was into a land of non-existence, into a land of catering. And that's an absolute shame, because you have all this talent, and some talent shouldn't even be in the positions they're in. I mean, Big Cass, why is Big Cass in a position over Ty Dillinger? I would say that Ty Dillinger has tenfold, no pun intended, the charisma that a Big Cass has. I would say that he has a better gimmick, he's better in the ring, yet Big Cass was in the main event of SmackDown Live here tonight, and Ty Dillinger was in his first matchup on SmackDown Live in like 4 months. That's absolutely ridiculous right there. And it just goes to show you how WWE will put look and size and stature over somebody with actual talent just because they want to focus on this guy. And you know what? That guy right there, we don't want him. He got himself over. That's not in the books. And we're going to do everything that we can to oppress that and silence that. And that is absolute malarkey right there. That is absolute bullshit. And it really makes no sense to me. But Shinsuke Nakamura did get the victory here tonight. Kinshasa square in the face of Ty Dillinger. It was 1, 2, 3. And then after the matchup, Dillinger was recuperating. Kinshasa to the back of the head looked brutal. And Nakamura did get to that 10 count here tonight on SmackDown Live. So that was a decent matchup here tonight. Ty Dillinger looked impressive, but ultimately nothing too amazing. Dasha Fuentes was backstage with WWE Champion AJ Styles asking about what just happened to Dillinger and the last man standing stipulation. And AJ actually cut a very good promo here. He said AJ hasn't forgotten what Nakamura did last week. Something snapped in Nakamura at some point, and now he's not sure what it was, but Nakamura is now more dangerous than he has ever been. He says the stipulation favors Nakamura as a striker, but once again his challenger is underestimating him. AJ says he fights harder and smarter than the guy who is clearly bigger and stronger than him. AJ goes on and says Nakamura will try to tear down everything he's built at Money in the Bank, but when it's all said and done, the last man standing will be the phenomenal AJ Styles. Very good promo by AJ Styles right there. And we moved on to something that I found very ridiculous. And I was like, alright, you're going to put Lana versus Naomi here tonight. And until this actually got underway, like 2 minutes before this actually got underway, I heard this is going to be a dance-off. And I just said, what the hell? I was thinking, alright, this is going to be an opportunity for Lana to show us what she's got in that ring. Lana, she had matches last year with Naomi for the SmackDown Women's Championship, of course, when Naomi was holding that title, and they were garbage. Maybe this time, Lana will redeem herself. But, of course, WWE seems to be hiding Lana's weaknesses. Of course, last week she had a very, very short matchup against Mandy Rose or Sonya Deville. I can't remember which one of those losers was in the middle of the ring. But, of course, here tonight, they didn't put her in an actual match when they very easily could have, and it would have made sense because you're putting Lana in a matchup against somebody who she couldn't get the job done against here tonight. And you call this a she couldn't get the job done last year, but here tonight you're hiding her weaknesses, and this dance-off, I feel like, wasn't even done properly. Usually WWE has somebody mediating this. You could have very easily sent Renee Young out there to pop the crowd. Who do you think was better? Something like that. But they just danced, and I feel like both Lana and Naomi could have danced a lot better. It was some good dancing, but I'm not here to rate dancing. I'm here to review wrestling. So that is besides the point. Go watch the dance critique. The person critiquing Dancing with the Stars. I don't goddamn know. But here tonight, Lana and Naomi, after they finished dancing, they just started dancing together. And this is where I was like, all right, that makes sense. That's a lot better. And it kind of saved this from being just this absolutely cringeworthy segment on SmackDown Live. Because Lana, they kind of crossed their arms and they did the back-to-back, right? Like if they were buddy-buddy. And Lana hit a neck breaker on Naomi, and that sparked a battle between the Usos who accompanied Naomi, and that was something else that I didn't like about this segment. This was by far the worst part of SmackDown Live here tonight, but then again, the worst part of SmackDown Live was probably, you place this on Monday Night Raw, better than most of the things, probably better than 5/6 of what we've seen on Monday Night Raw last night, but that is besides the point. Lana, she attacks Naomi afterwards, and the Usos are by the side of Naomi, and I hate that. Last week, you had the Usos actually do something pretty good. They put over Gallows and Anderson. They brought in that aggression that they do when they're a tag team, but now they're just accompanying Jimmy or Jay's. I don't even know whose wife Naomi is. They're just accompanying the wife, the mistress over here, to their dance, and Rusev Day, they're accompanying the mistress over here to the dance. I don't understand that, but it did incite a battle, and next week, I thought this would be a 6-man tag next week, or you'd have Lana versus Naomi one week, and then the next week you have Rusev Day versus the Usos, which actually sounds a lot better, but no, apparently next week we're getting a mixed tag, and this is going to result in Lana and Aiden English, not even Lana and Rusev, against Naomi and one of the Usos, probably her husband. I'm not, or maybe not the one that's her husband, because, I mean, Aiden English has nothing to do with Lana, besides all of them being part of Rusev Day. So, I mean, I guess that's what we're going to see next week. Very random, very weird, makes no sense to me. But again, this is just so you can get everybody on TV, even though they're not in the forefront, aka the Usos and Rusev Day. And this is to have the people in Money in the Bank, Naomi and Lana, having something to do with each other and feuding going into the pay-per-view itself. So this, more than anything, is blatantly that. This, more than anything, is that these people have nothing to do with each other. There's no beef here, yet these people are being placed in a programming. That is where I get that notion of WWE being lazy and just wanting to put the members of the Money in the Bank ladder match in a program against each other. Because besides Naomi beating Lana last year, which was barely brought up 3 times for the SmackDown Championship, besides that little backstory that you have right there, realistically, before this, what did Naomi in her current iteration, and Lana especially in her current iteration, have to do with either of each other? They have nothing to do with each other. And that's where that comes off. And this was easily the worst part of this show. But overall, nothing too crazy. But really something that you can very easily pick apart, if I can speak here, and really say, well, that's pretty garbage. But either way, we move on to a 6-man tag, which actually very much impressed me here tonight. It was The Bar and The Miz versus The New Day. And this matchup, it really didn't devolve into that traditional 6-man tag thing that we usually see where everybody hits their big moves. It was really a long, extended period where everybody was trying to get their moves in, and it was near falls all over the place, and it was very back and forth for a lot of this matchup. And you had The Bar hit the big move, and then you had The New Day hit the big move, and it very much devolved into something very, very good. And this 6-man tag got a lot of time for what it was worth, and it actually devolved into something that was better than I was expecting. And they put on a very good matchup here tonight. But in the end, it was Big E, of course, WWE, again, and this comes into SmackDown Live being booked like a traditional WWE show where it's formulaic and realistically there's illogical booking. The 50-50 booking took place here tonight because The Miz beat Big E, whether it was by nefarious terms or not last week. So Big E, of course, took the W here tonight, and he got his win back from The Miz. So right now, these guys are at a stalemate, 50-50, with the WWE booking. Well, clearly, they're still playing up the fact of who's going to be the one, the member of the New Day, to enter Money in the Bank. It's clearly going to be Big E. In my eyes, he is the one who is being positioned to go one-on-one, head-to-head with the single star that is The Miz, and it's clearly going to be Big E. It's the only one who will actually add some unpredictability to the Money in the Bank ladder match, because you already know how high on Big E, and Big E's, of course, physique Vince McMahon is. So that is the standout of the New Day right there when it comes to who's going to be the big single star if they ever break up. And this is just WWE testing the waters of Big E as a single star, and he's going to be the one to go into Money in the Bank. But he got his win back against The Miz here tonight, and I don't know where they go from here with The Bar and The Miz and the New Day situation. But that's what happened here tonight. Actually, very, very good Money in the Bank build-up 6-man tag, better than I expected it to be. But Renee Young was backstage with Luke Gallows and Carl Anderson asking about their title shot from SmackDown Tag Team Champions, the Bludgeon Brothers at Money in the Bank. The Good Brothers talk about how they're the best in the best shape of their careers and ready for the titles. They admit they have their work cut out for them, but they are confident that they will beat the Bludgeon Brothers at Money in the Bank like they're a couple of... And then strange music starts playing as Rowan and Harper appear on a nearby TV screen. They send an eerie warning to the Good Brothers and tell them to prepare for what's coming. So clearly the Tag Team Championship matchup was not at the forefront here tonight, but that is something that will take place at Money in the Bank. I really don't see where Gallows and Anderson are coming from as far as being contenders for the tag team titles. I mean, before beating the Usos last week, they really did nothing to earn these tag team title shots, and I really do not see this team being the ones to take the titles off of the Bludgeon Brothers. If there's a team that is going to take the title off of the Bludgeon Brothers, I think WWE is holding Sanity off. Of course, they were announced on SmackDown Live. They're MIA, missing in action. I think WWE is very, very evidently holding Sanity off for whenever they need them to debut, which is probably going to be after Money in the Bank, in order to start building towards a feud to SummerSlam, where Sanity is going to be the next dominant team to hold the SmackDown Live Tag Team titles, and you can go from there. So that's what I think about that. The way the Bludgeon Brothers have been booked, I wouldn't say is the best. I mean, you could have easily had these guys go into classic matches against the New Day, or excuse me, not the New Day. You could have had them go into classic matches against the New Day. But you also could have had them go into classic matches against the Usos, and instead WWE decided to have them go the dominating squash route. And hopefully they don't do that tonight, or at Money in the Bank, because these guys, they can be big, brute, intimidating monsters, but you can display that in the offense that they get. But at least make it a battle. Make it a battle for these tag team titles, and allow these guys to have good matches instead of holding them back and just fitting them into that monster role, which doesn't really make them exciting as tag team champions. That's my thought about that. But that matchup will happen at the Money in the Bank pay-per-view. We move on here to Mandy Rose versus Asuka. Don't ask me about the quality of this matchup because it was a Mandy Rose matchup, and of course that means it was in the toilet. But the interesting thing to note here was before the matchup, where Asuka was attacked by Sonya Deville. So clearly that was trying to give Mandy Rose the advantage, but there was no way in hell you'd hear it from me if Mandy Rose beat Asuka here tonight. There was no way in hell that was going to happen, and before you knew it, Asuka locked in the Asuka lock, and she was having Mandy Rose tapping out before her. But they did build a confrontation between Carmella, who was on commentary during this matchup, between Carmella and Asuka. All I'm hoping from this feud, I don't care what the hell you put on before it, all I'm hoping is that Asuka is the one to take the title off of Carmella. If that is the case, then I am fine with whatever the hell we see. All we saw here tonight was a stare down between these two women. And you know what? It was absolutely fine. Nothing out of the ordinary, nothing too crazy. They have a stare down, and Carmella music's hit. Something that I did like here tonight, and I did mention this in the opening, it was Charlotte Flair and Becky Lynch backstage having a little bit of a confrontation. And Flair believes Asuka will win the title at Money in the Bank. Flair can see it now. Asuka will win the title, and she will win the briefcase, setting the stage for a WrestleMania 34 rematch. Becky disagrees and sees herself winning. She was fingertips away from winning the briefcase last year, and nothing will stop her this year, even Flair. Flair goes on about how this is hard because she wants Becky to win as well, but Flair needs this. She needs her title back. They have some friendly words when Paige walks in, and Paige loves the competition, and unfortunately, Paige brings up PCB. Paige tries to get in on tea time and walks off after an awkward, to say the least, exchange. But that was very interesting right there. That was very interesting, and I'll tell you why. That is because Becky Lynch and Charlotte will go one-on-one. That is what Paige meant by tea time. They will go one-on-one next week on SmackDown Live. And I know this might seem like another petty excuse to just get the women in Money in the Bank against each other, but this one is actually something I like, and this is actually something that's going to result in a very, very good matchup, and it also promotes and inhibits competition in this women's division. It makes the Money in the Bank ladder match feel important, and that is where you get it here tonight. So that's my thoughts on that. I absolutely enjoyed that little confrontation because Becky Lynch and Charlotte, putting Becky Lynch in the forefront against Charlotte, I think a win against Charlotte for Becky Lynch would really do her some good. So it's going to be interesting to see what happens next week, and for sure I cannot wait to see the matchup next week as well. Either way, we go to another little backstage segment, which was very interesting here tonight, and it was Sin Cara who approached Andrade Cien Almas backstage and embraces him. Zelina Vega walks up and she's not happy, asking who Cara is and why a nobody like him is talking to her client. Zelina Vega is absolutely fantastic. She says Almas is the future of SmackDown. Cara asks Almas if she's serious, and Almas says something back to him in Spanish. Almas and Vega walk off as Cara watches. So this is going to lead to a matchup. I heard that Sin Cara and Andrade Cien Almas at the house shows, they had a matchup against each other, and it was very good. Sin Cara can bring the A-game. Sin Cara can bring the A-game. Of course, Hunico is behind that mask nowadays, not the original Sin Cara. But, of course, Andrade Cien Almas, this is going to be his first real test, and it makes sense that they're doing it against another Spanish Lucha Libre-styled wrestler. I think WWE gives this matchup even like 10 minutes on SmackDown Live, back and forth between these two guys, just feats about